Hello, everybody. Jess Loos with the Structural Building Components Association here with Sean Shields, and we're going to review SBCA's joint survey with John Burns Real Estate Consulting. And that is a quarterly report that we've got coming out, and we want you to participate. So we're going to give you a little taste of what's going on. So why don't we jump into it? Why don't you say welcome, Sean, while we're here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, glad to be here, Jess. And certainly this is an endeavor that we have had with JBREC here. Couple of years in the making, but I'm kind of excited because it builds upon their lumber and building material survey that they've done for years. Certainly we've had some members participating in that, but this one is specific to component manufacturers and is laser focused on our industry.
And we're just going to give you a brief overview of it. Hopefully you have fear of missing out, so you want to participate. That's the goal, but also to kind of give you an idea of what's going on in the component industry as we speak. So really the three takeaways, the manufacturers are expecting revenue to contract by about 6% from 2022. And, kind of getting a feel, you would think that number might be larger, but I think people are kind of showing some optimism. Obviously there's, a contraction, but it's not the end of the world. And so that was one of my big takeaways. How about you, Sean, on any of that?
Well, I think this is reflective of what a lot of economists are saying and whatnot, that this first half of the year might be a little rough going, but we're going to see a strong recovery in the second half. So I think that it seems like a lot of component manufacturers are internalizing that consistent message that, it's going to be rough here in the beginning, but we'll probably even out by the end of the year.
And takeaway number 2 was CMs are planning to expand sales and marketing resources to mitigate the impact of an industry slowdown. We'll talk about that a little bit in a slide later, but that one was, makes sense, right, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, we've certainly, anytime we start going down, that sentiment will go down too. And certainly with the cost of materials, which we'll get into a little bit more, that's going to affect revenue significantly.
And then also, one other thing that a takeaway from the survey, which was a big part of last year, the slowing demand, 95% of structural component manufacturers report that most of their project pipeline was on schedule. So as things slow, as things kind of contract, you're going to get back on schedule. That one's pretty much a no-brainer. That other number that's probably jumping out there, that 49.6, that's an indicator of where revenues are going to go for component manufacturers. 50 would be dead even. So anything above that is positive. So it kind of makes sense that it'd be just below that, kind of, as the survey would reach.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly see this a lot with other sentiment indexes, whether it's the home builders or building material dealers. Ours has been going down steadily over the course of the year, but it's nice that it's still hovering around that 50%. There's still a lot of optimism that, there will be a recovery this year.
And this is one of those slides that kind of stuck out for me, that manufacturer volume grew 3% year over year in Q4 of 22. That indicates that things aren't, the volume is still there. We're better than we were last year, maybe not the expectations. As you can see from Q1, it was a steady slide down as far as what the increase over the year before was, but it is one of those that, not all is lost.
Yeah, I mean, this chart, even though it's sort of going in the wrong direction from what we'd prefer, it still represents significant growth over the course of the year. So it's hard to feel bad about that. Hopefully this coming year will be a reversal of this chart, right?
Yeah, that's the hope. Another one here, seeing the same demand for their products as they were in the past 3 years. So if you look at that right, Q4, 5 is, the same demand as they were 3 years ago. So again, while it may not have been as good as the last few quarters, it is one of those that if you compare it over the longer term, things are still a pretty good spot. And it is, one of those that, 3 years ago with everything we've been through, if you would have said you're at the same levels, I'm guessing people would have been pretty happy about that. But, again, it's all relative to what yesterday was too. So any thoughts on that, Sean?
Well, I just think that, we'll get into this in a couple of the next slides that give us further insight into this. But I think that this is a good spot to be in, given where the market's at. The hope here is that we can, again, sort of reverse this chart this coming year, but continue to grow market share. I think there's a lot of opportunity there. And certainly with demand staying level over a 3-year period, that's a good place to be.
So this is what I wanted to kind of just quickly talk about. What are builders doing to, adjust to availability constraints, also, pricing. They're simplifying the floor plan. They're also simplifying the roof design, which, has some implications to component manufacturers. But the one thing they're not doing down there at the bottom is decreasing roof or floor deflection, which makes, component manufacturers, the designers' jobs that much easier. That they're not being pressed on quality or the performance either. So that was a good one that just wanted to quickly go there. Sean, you like this one. Do you want to talk a little bit to this chart?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, certainly what is most encouraging is that top number, which I think, is maybe a little surprising, without the context. But that 68% of component manufacturers that participated in the survey said that they're planning on expanding sales and marketing resources. So people aren't sitting back. They're aggressively going after growing their market share and what they're selling to their customers. And if you look at some of those other percentages down there, it sort of jives with that, whether it's, 32% may be reducing their capital expenditures. You have 37% that are looking to expand their footprint and 32% that are increasing or resuming their capital expenditures. So there's certainly a healthy portion of the industry that's looking to grow in this time period where maybe sales are dropping off a little bit. And what they're doing to try to counteract that is to really get out there and hit the pavement with their sales teams. I think for us as a trade association, we're looking at that number very closely and going, okay, well, what resources can we bring around CMs to help them accomplish that? And then finally seeing 21% wanting to add product lines. I mean, that's also very encouraging. I think there's another slide that'll talk about what those product lines are, but I think that's also very encouraging.
And I'm curious to hear, are you just adding salespeople to go out and try to find more plans, or are you doing actual marketing, and what does that look like? Because that's where SBCA can help. And, I'd love to hear about those stories of what's actually happening out in the field.
We also want to find that 5% that are raising their prices right now. That's awesome.
Yeah. And one of our last slides here, it was kind of what are those products that you're looking to add in the next 2 to 5 years? And they asked for 3, and really they got 2, with floor cassettes being one of them, which makes sense, as well as wall panels. So I think as people look to implement that full offsite, solution through component manufacturers, that makes sense to people that are, manufacturing roof trusses and floor trusses, that they would add the cassettes, which is a fairly easy add, but also wall panels. So that one, the third option, they didn't really have, the third consideration there.
Well, the one thing I think it was interesting, and maybe it's just how the question was written, but certainly component manufacturers that have the capacity to sell floor trusses right now, trying to expand the projects in which they're converting those to floor trusses, I think is probably something that's not captured in here, but is something that component manufacturers across the country are trying to do right now.
All right, so that's going to wrap it up here, the smiling faces. If you'd like to participate, please reach out to Sean. His contact information is there on the screen. You should find it on our website. He's easy to get to find. But thank you to everybody at JBREC and Sean for putting this together. It is a worthwhile report. I love seeing it every quarter. This is literally we're just scratching the surface. There's a lot more there, a lot more depth. So hopefully you'll get out, participate, and see the full report as a return on that. Anything to add there, Sean, as we wrap up?
Jess, I think it's great so far. We have pretty strong participation, representing about 20% of the component manufacturing capacity in the U.S., but certainly we'd like to grow that number. So strong participation, but I would welcome anyone and everyone who would like to see these numbers on a regular basis. Reach out to me and we'll get you signed up for the survey.
All right. Well, thanks, Sean. And reach out and participate. We'd love to have you.